The 149th edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been, there ever will be.
Eight up freehand, King likes the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot, good, off the glass. Oklahoma calls timeout, but the game is over. The game is over. Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma. Ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores.
With 20 seconds left to play, goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63, 62, 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Brent Brown looking. Throw away to Worthy. 35. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship. Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short rebound. It's over. And how about the Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national dadgum champions.
And that's what it takes when you big time games. You got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe. Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services, and we have made it to a game preview, Anthony. And after Carolina got waxed in the ACC tournament back in March, and then the ACC tournament, of course, was canceled the next day because of COVID-19, we just didn't know when we'd get back to this. We are now officially on the eve of college basketball season. We were recording on the Monday before Carolina, of course, playing on Wednesday in the Smith Center against the College of Charleston Cougars. And it's been a long off season. It's been a very intriguing off season, but nonetheless, we have Carolina basketball.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of the point that we were at for a while with Carolina football, too, where we were sitting there saying to ourselves, first of all, what would the season look like if we had one? And it took a while. I mean, this is the latest that we've ever had a schedule released. There wasn't much time to prepare. You weren't able to get in and do as much practice as you probably would have liked. But, I mean, that's the thing, is that this team still has a lot of the pieces that you would feel will make you a really competitive basketball team this year. That's what's exciting about it. And, I feel like this is also a season where, you could have definitely overthink some things after last year. There's a lot of things that have to change from what we did a year ago. But, really with everything that went on this offseason, you can't really overthink it. You have to get back to basics. And one of the guys that I think fits that so well to be able to do that is Roy Williams as a head coach. And I think his team's going to reflect that. And it starts in this game against the College of Charleston, one of pretty much 2 games that we see on the schedule where we say to ourselves, we should probably pencil that in as a win. Other than that, there are no gimmies on this schedule. So, those are the types of games that this year you have got to take advantage of.
Yeah, that was the one thing Carolina failed to do last year, was win the gimmies. And that was the reason why they found themselves at the bottom of the ACC and had the season spiral out of control. And really, it caused Roy Williams to drop F-bombs. It caused us to drop F-bombs and call people wounded animals on the podcast and this, that, and the other. But I think you're right. I think with all the craziness that has been, what COVID has brought, to the sports world, to our world in general, I think Roy Williams and his staff are best able to handle all this and just get the guys to focus in on that. Whenever you walk out on that floor, even though there's not going to be 22,000 screaming Tar Heel fans, you're not going to be playing in hostile environments, it's still basketball. The game doesn't change because of the extracurriculars that sports bring you. You've still got to do things really well. And I think you said Carolina's got to do a lot of things better this year that they didn't do last year. And I'm not talking about the X's and the O's. I'm talking about just the simple things that they struggled at, whether it was switching to the ball screen, talking back and forth when to switch or whatever. that's where they've got to get better. And I think they've used an extended practice period of time to kind of set the foundation, because this is it's a young basketball team. They're a very talented team. I said last week when we previewed the season with Mark, I think Carolina's more gifted this year than they were a year ago. But they're a lot more younger this time around than they were when we were entering last season. And I think, we've got to understand that's going to be a part of what we're going to see this year. You're going to see Carolina play really, really well at times. And they're going to play really, really bad. But that's part of being young, and that's part of not having the normal offseason and normal preseason to get you ready for the ACC season. So when we look at the game against the College of Charleston, I think this game really comes back to Carolina. The College of Charleston, they are a respectable mid-level Power 5 program. They've beaten Carolina before. They beat the Tar Heels back in that 2010 disaster season in their place. But this game is in the Smith Center. It's in Chapel Hill. There's not going to be a lot of fans there, which would favor the Cougars, but they still got to make the trip. And Carolina is more gifted. They are more talented. And I think, as you said, this is the one of only 2 games before they get the ACC slate, or really all year, where you can think Carolina should win, Carolina is going to win. But they still got to play really well.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you mentioned, this is one of the better group of 5 programs, especially here in the South. They've been around for a while. They made the NCAA tournament relatively consistently, coming off a mediocre year a year ago. I mean, 17-14. Finished 4th in their conference. So, I mean, not great, but not bad. Their problem is that 3 of their 4 leading scorers from a year ago were seniors. So now they have to replace all those guys. So Carolina's facing a team that's going to be going through some similar things that they are. They don't have many veteran players, or the guys that are veterans really haven't played all that much in their career, haven't put up the numbers that they think are necessary for them to be able to come into this game and have the confidence to win this game. Still, as you mentioned, I mean, look, Carolina's got some things that they've still got to get figured out. I think one of the biggest things that you're going to be looking for in this game, Roy Williams said he's not really overly concerned about the backcourt. Okay, well, how much of that is coach speak? How much of that is him being truthful? I think that Carolina is definitely – people are definitely concerned about what they have in the backcourt, because last year you were young, you struggled. This year you're even younger, and your feeling is that this team's probably going to struggle once again from beyond the arc, really just from the perimeter in general. I still think that a lot of people, from what I've heard, think Caleb Love fits this team a lot better than Cole Anthony did. His skill set does. Cole Anthony was a guy that thrived more in the half-court setting, believe it or not, than out and running. Caleb Love, a little bit different. So that should sort of accentuate some of the things that we liked a lot about young Garrison Brooks, that we liked about Armando Bacot when he came out as a recruit. So those are the types of things that you're going to be looking for in this first game, really trying to figure out what type of team is Carolina. Are they a team that knows what we know? You got to put the ball inside to win. Or are they a team that's going to try to find some perimeter shooting and be able to win games that way? I hope not. I hope their thinking is, old school Carolina. Put the ball inside and just dominate. But we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, I think when you come into the game, you look at what are you looking for. I think, for me, I want to see what does Garrison Brooks look like a year grooming of him being the guy. He never thought he would be in the position he is now, where he was going to be Carolina's first option on offense. He's the leader of Carolina when they're on the floor and when they're off the court. I think it's just, you can see that. We saw it in the offseason when we had all the social movements happening after the George Floyd tragedy that happened up in Minnesota, and Carolina was kind of going through the Black Lives Matter and making that a part of their program. He was leading that, and I think that's something that, it shows that he's a leader. The guys gravitated to what he was wanting, his voice and his message to get out and heard. So what does he look like as the guy? Because Carolina last year, he wasn't supposed to be the guy, and when he was, it benefited him, but it didn't benefit Carolina that he was the guy, because they didn't win with his effort. So I think that's the main thing, one thing I'm looking at. But I think it all comes back to, what does Carolina look at the backcourt? Last year, you had the highs and lows of Cole Anthony. Then you had the period where he was gone, and you were just hoping to get something positive from that position. You got that from Anthony Harris and Jeremiah Francis. Harris gets hurt. He's not going to be ready to play tomorrow night. And Then you had Jeremiah Francis transfer. So what does Caleb Love look like? This is Carolina's fourth point guard in as many years, going from Joel Berry to Kobe White to Cole Anthony, now to Caleb Love. Is it a smooth transition? Does he come in and does he take off running, or is it more choppy like you saw with Cole Anthony last year, like you saw with Kobe White at times before the ACC season during his spectacular one season in Chapel Hill? What does R.J. Davis bring you? I think one guy we're all looking at, because he's going to have a role until Carolina's fully healthy, is what does Andrew Platek give you? Because there's a good chance he's going to start. And there's a good chance he's going to play 25 to 30 minutes right away. Yep. So what does he bring to Carolina when he's on the floor? And then I think for me, if there's one player I'm looking at more than anyone, it's Leaky Black. Because I've talked at length all offseason how important he is for Carolina to be back where they want to be. Is he ready to be a big-time player for Carolina? This is the kind of game before you play that Maui Invitational that's not in Maui. It's going to be in Asheville for him to get some confidence on the court against some live action for this team to carry over when they start playing tougher competition. But let's make no mistake. This is a game Carolina should win rather convincingly. But I think we're understanding that if they play sloppy and it's not pretty, we understand that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be moments where they're going to be sloppy in this game. That's just going to happen. The biggest thing is when you get late in the game, do you do what you have to do to pull away and win this game by the margin that you think you should win it by? Which, I mean, again, if you want to do that, you got to be able to go inside. I think, one of the biggest things that I'm going to be keeping an eye on in this game is Andrew Platek. How does he play in this game? How does he handle the pressure of having to be a guy that's a full-time starter right now? I mean, He did start games last year, believe it or not. With as many things that went wrong injury-wise and everything, he has starting experience. But now, I mean, they have to tell him, look, at this point, we don't know when Anthony Harris is coming back. We have no clue. At this point, and we're hoping it's not like this. It could be a situation similar to Sterling Manley where there's really not a timetable for exactly when he's going to return. So for the foreseeable future, you've got to take the mindset that this is my spot and I've got to come out and perform. And again, I said it on the preview podcast and I'll say it again here. We have got, as media members, as the fan base, you have to give him an opportunity. You can't come out and just automatically think in your mind, okay, this guy's not going to get the job done. We're going to have to use one of the younger guys. They're just going to have to step up. We don't know that. This is a guy that's a senior. He's been around for a while. You just never know when the light can click on for some guys. Maybe it does click on for him. But if not, the main thing that he's got to be able to do, if anything, is not only give Anthony Harris time to come back, give time for guys like R.J. Davis, Kerwin Walton, Puff Johnson to grow, to become comfortable where you can start using them on rotation while subbing you in as well. That's the point that you've got to get to with Platek. And I think, we're going to find that out. It's going to be found out pretty quickly. I think by the time that they leave the Maui Invitational of Asheville, we'll figure out exactly what that looks like at that shooting guard position. Everywhere else, I'm not overly concerned about Caleb Love. I feel pretty good about him. I'm not getting my hopes up quite like with Cole Anthony, where we thought this guy could potentially be Naismith Player of the Year, all that kind of stuff. But I still feel like there's a quiet confidence about him. And when it comes to Leaky Black, like I said when we talked on the preview, I think him knowing his position is going to really help him a lot. He's going to be a little more established in that spot, and that's going to help him to grow.
Yeah, I think the thing we mentioned when we talked about Caleb Love and what he's walking into, I think he's walking into a better situation than Cole Anthony was given. Cole Anthony was walking in a situation where we knew night one, you're our best player, we need you to produce. That wasn't the case for Kobe White. He had Luke May, Cameron Johnson, a veteran Kenny Williams, those kind of guys around him that made it easy for him to transition to college basketball. And if you remember, with Joel Berry and Marcus Page, their freshman seasons weren't pretty because the situations around them weren't easy. I think
they also didn't have to start, though, which made it so much easier.
You look at Caleb Love, you've got the best big man in the ACC on your team, and you've got the deepest front court maybe in college basketball that should make the job easier.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing for Carolina is Roy Williams said he's excited about getting back to his roots, about playing traditionally with two bigs and running. I think it's what we're going to see. Is like you see Carolina play with Brooks and Baycott, or Brooks and Sharp, and Kessler and Sharp, and Kessler and Baycott. But they're going to run, and they're still going to play at a high tempo, and they're going to score the ball like Carolina's supposed to. Remember, last year they didn't score 80 for the longest time.
Right, which works better for them. They are not a half-court team. Never in my lifetime have I seen a team where I thought to myself at Carolina, okay, this